Hello, friends. Welcome to Saga Thursday. We're here with Steven Holdeman. How are you?
Doing wonderful.
Yep.
Glad to be back at it.
Yeah, fan favorite. I get public requests, personal requests to have you back.
All right. Well, I love it. I'm just glad to hear it. I'm grateful and humble.
Yeah, so you're definitely, it's funny, because you came last night, recording on Saturday, and it was good to see you, and within 5 minutes, I was like, oh yeah, Steven really likes Saga. Yeah. So it's good to have you here. How's the weekend been going so far?
It's been fantastic. You know, COVID really put things off for a little bit, and showing back up and seeing a lot of familiar faces, it felt like we picked up exactly where we left off. And it doesn't seem like it's been almost 3 years maybe for Saga.
Yeah.
And so it's been great. I feel like I'm back home. So
it's been a lot of fun, and seeing the people, and you just smile when you see them. You're like, oh,
you point
shit.
at the distance,
Yeah.
you say, you. Oh, it's you.
Oh,
you. I love you.
So we're going to talk about the singles event on Saturday, which was Age of Melee. So you could pick any age, any army, and go to town. So you played Carolingian. So how did you... I know you got a couple different armies probably in the works. So was this specifically for Age of Melee? Is it using what you had, or did you come up with something specifically after your, brain muscle analysis?
Right, yeah. Well, I got to say, I've always loved the Carolingian board. It's been one of my favorites. From a history perspective, I love the Franks. I love each phase of their history, and it's something that I've wanted to do for a while. In Saga 1, the strongest I had ever come into a tournament with my reps and games and stuff was the Frankish band that came in, Carolingian band, and I plummeted. I did absolutely terrible. I came in probably 36-0 going into that event and lost 4, drew 1, and won 1. So in a way, I had a chip on my shoulder that I wanted to get off a little bit with this board, even though it's a different board. It's brand new. It's not brand new anymore, but and I wanted to choose, so I chose the Merovingian variant versus the Carolingian variant, which allows for mounted Hearthguard with javelins. And there's a couple reasons I enjoyed that too. Love that period of history. But I also know that in anything in Saga, an 8-man Hearthguard with javelins and a banner is a tried and true crushing unit that you can really put through on a bad turn. You're still going to have a good turn, or at least good potential with a warband like that. So, and I'm actually taking this one all the way through. So tomorrow at Vikings, I'll also be taking the same list.
All right.
And so that was, I have to say, a little bit of convenience there at the same time, too, to be able to take it.
So much storage space one has
exactly
on these travails.
I really entertained doing Sassanids for this. I also thought about Iberians or Gauls going into this, too. But there's just a lot of painting on the backstock to get ready for that.
Yeah.
8 Hearthguard are pretty easy to get painted compared to 16 Warriors or something like that. So that was a motivator for sure.
Well, yeah, it's kind of works out because when I talked to you for Saga Thursday, it was Carolingians version 1. Yeah,
right, exactly.
So long ago. So now we're coming back.
You know what? That's right.
Around.
That's right.
So,
yeah,
we'll consider this like a mini Carolingians
wrap up. Yeah, today and beyond.
View. So. What was your list? So 8 Hearthguard.
8 Hearthguard with a banner, and
warriors?
Then the rest of it was all warriors, but that was traditionally set up into 9 bow warriors, 9 bow warriors, 10 javelin warriors, which is something only the Merovingian variant can take. And then the last 4 warriors that were floating, I think that's 32 warriors total, were either bows or mounted guys, depending on what I was up against. I like the ability, because of the Carolingians, to be able to launch out a fatigue-free charge on small units if you really need to, and that's a great end-of-game tool to be able to have in case you realize, I messed up, I need to hit that warlord. That board also delivers auto hits too, so you can kind of shoot out this missile, try to get this Hail Mary at the end too. I didn't end up having to do that, and I was thankful for it. But that's my contingency in the background.
Yeah.
So.
That's interesting. So, yeah, usually 4 warriors is like a throwaway, keep it on the back line, which I don't like to do. Some people like to do that, but you can still use them.
Well, and
with the auto hits,
definitely.
because 4 attack. Yeah. So when I'm running 4 attacks,
And,
I'm not going to bank any on
And
that.
the Carolingian board also has an ability that no other Saga board has in the form of Domine, which is a rare on the left side of the board, and it allows you to select from any of the previous 4 ones on the right side of the board, so you have this utility, and it also allows you to use an ability that you've already used in the turn, which is the only Saga warband that I know of that can allow that. So I could do 2 auto hits, followed by 2 more auto hits, potentially, if I needed to. So that's a nice tool to have.
So, yeah, now I'm starting to remember Scott did the version 2 Carolingian review. So you could get up to like 4 auto hits. With you pop one, then the other.
Correct.
Yeah, that's a scary little fort.
Especially
I mean, you could kill a warlord outright.
That's it.
Without, even if he's fresh, you know? Go like
so that
junk.
little 4-man sitting in the back, knowing that with 2 activations and fatigue-free activations included on that board, I could launch anywhere from 24 inches away and drop a potential 4 auto hits is a nice backup to have in everything else.
Nice. So I like it. Scotty didn't talk about that in the board review. So let's get in round 1 now. Was round 1 actually Scott?
It was Scott. So Scott round 1, and we talked a lot of Carolingians beforehand because he was playing it for the doubles.
Yeah.
And so he wouldn't tell me what he was bringing to Age of Melee, and I have to say, Age of Melee is something that I've been extremely excited for because I wanted to see all these books that perhaps didn't have enough players to show up for their own tournament. I was hoping to see some Age of Hannibal stuff today, and I did not, I don't think. If they showed up, I didn't see them.
Yeah.
The Age of Invasions then was also the other one to really see. So first round, was against Scott with Sassanids. If I didn't take Franks to this, or Carolingians, I had considered Sassanids as well. I think Sassanids are a great tournament army because of their ability to hurt guys who are bunkered in terrain, and having an army that was bunkered in terrain, at least my shooting elements, I was a little worried.
Always be the Saga Pros
favorite
style of army. So
I know, I hate it, but it's tried and true.
So yeah, that was really cool. So Scott knew exactly what you could do. Maybe I don't think he has run the Merovingian variant, but he was aware of it. We kind of talked about it. So very interesting that you ran up against him. Probably Carolingians aren't so common, so you're probably hoping for a little surprise factor too.
But he already knew every trick in the book.
And then also, so Sassanids, a shooting heavy army, but also mobile, so not dissimilar from Carolingians. There's definitely differences, but
some appeal for me as I was going into it is today I really wanted to kill an elephant. I knew elephants had to show up. I remember seeing the UK, one of the lists, I think Carthaginians for the Grand Melee brought 3 elephants, and I was just dreaming to go up against it. I wasn't scared of it because small batch shooting is what Carolingians do the very best, and that's the way to kill those elephants. And I actually didn't go after Scots at all. I was a little intimidated to leave my cover because he was rolling great rares. He had Flames of Atar on pretty often, which I was really worried about. And for folks that aren't familiar, that one activates to shoot a unit when you go to activate, and if they hurt one of the units, it drops their movement into short the rest of the turn. So if I was going to move forward with my Hearthguard, shoot, and then retreat, which is why I was the mainstay of a lot of my movements.
Activation reaction.
Right. An activation reaction. I was worried that I would move up,
and then you can't get away.
And they have so many fantastic shooting abilities, and the Carolingians only have one defensive means to get rid of that, so I was terrified that I would move up, get blasted, and then be stranded out where my most expensive unit was going to get destroyed. So I just tried to shuffle units to draw out that Flames of Atar ahead of time, so then I could feel free to resume with my warriors, or my Hearthguard in that case. And so all in all, it went pretty well. Stayed bunkered down and rotated around my centered unit, and that's often what I'll end up doing, picking my kind of pinning point and then working around that, retreating, coming back, and trying to keep everyone in cooperation with each other.
So I walked over from time to time, observed this game. It looked pretty rough for you when I was over there, kind of in the earlier phase, but we should say this is Tale of Challenges.
We have some
very big swings riding on just a few die rolls, even more so than regular Saga,
Absolutely.
Right? So it sounded like this one came down
to a Hail Mary at the end.
Yeah, so why don't you describe
And
what
so,
happened
so
first?
the definitive phase of the game was me on one of my retreats with my Hearthguard, leaving them just exposed to be able to be charged by his own Hearthguard if they double activated to come get me.
Yeah.
I had a fatigue on me, and I was a little anxious that he was going to steamroll in, and I was hoping, fingers crossed, that he wasn't going to notice it. Some people just see a guy far away, and they think, I can't get that, let's not think about it, especially because the Sassanid Hearthguard are cataphracts, so they only move M initially and then charge L.
Yep.
So it gives me a little bit more protection there. He saw it, though, and he came flying down there, and the dice exchanges ended up with a point where I had only one of my Hearthguard out of 8 left, only one of his Hearthguard of 4 left. But in that opportunity, once I realized I had survived, I lit up because I realized there was an opportunity. In the back was his Warlord sitting by itself now with nothing else around it to be able to pull for bodyguards. And my challenges that I chose were to kill his Warlord.
Very good.
And to destroy his most expensive unit. And the way this tournament today ruled that was that if you had a bunch of units that were equivalent costs, you had to indicate one of them. He chose also the Warlord. So to be able to destroy the Warlord was going to net me a tremendous amount of stuff.
Yeah, I think 8 for the Warlord, and then I'm not sure how much that one.
5
or
for
6.
the other one?
14
Right, so-
plus the Massacre points. He's
Right.
worth 19 points.
That's 19 points there on
Too
that.
much, Scott.
And so I saw my opportunity. I took my Javelin Warriors that remained it, and normally, every turn I roll on Carolingians, I know where my dice are going every time. But in this point, I said, there has to be something different. And everything was committed to streamlining those guys nonstop into that Warlord until we got the kill with kind of a little bit of wiggle room. But in general, it was going to be close. It was going to be a flip of a coin a little bit.
Block save,
And I got
perhaps.
it, though. I nailed it. And that, like you said, pulled me 19 points ahead. I think I was marginally ahead at that point beforehand. Not enough probably to feel secure. And that changed it. And him losing his challenges in that case, because he also chose 3 challenges, the same 2 that I had, plus First Blood, and I was able to take First Blood from him. So he had to lose 10 points in addition. So it ended up being 41-9, I think, in that case, which the game was not that big of a blowout. It was a way closer than that actually seems.
Right,
and
the
so I
challenges.
count my blessings. I know that I had a very risky play to get the win, and if it didn't go that way, Scott would have been walking away with the win himself. And I allowed myself to move my Warlord and Hearthguard unit away into safety. There's nothing he could do to get it. We'd have to count the points out to see if I would have still won by like a point or 2. But no one comes into a tournament wanting to win by a point or 2. You say, like, I need to cover the spread. So Scott was a fantastic opponent, though. The prettiest Sassanids on the field, that's for sure.
So,
they're absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah,
so
beautiful models, Aventine miniatures, well painted, and definitely my pick for the best painted. So it's looking a little rough, but big win it turned out. Gotta be feeling
high
pretty
risk,
good.
high reward.
Yeah. So round 2, who did you end up matched against?
Got Don Fretz, and I got Sassanids again. So Sassanids came up again, and while I was not able to approach Scott's elephant, there I saw 2 beautiful elephants in this list, and so I knew that as a side goal for myself, whatever I wanted to do, I wanted to try to kill 1 elephant.
A third of the army was elephants.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
at this point, so.
And initially, like I said, resilience 2 that elephants have is intimidating, but not when you're spreading your shots over a series of activations, because it kind of discounts the ability of resilience 2 to shrug things off. If I do one 3 times, right, I've filled up his fatigue, and it's easy enough to get in there. I also had a good advantage in the terrain deployment for this one. I got the terrain pieces I want, which was a rocky ground and a ruins on my side, mostly because I didn't want him to put his levy inside of them. Exactly.
Rocky ground and the ruins.
And he wasn't interested in putting too much of a defensive terrain placement down, so he had a pretty open area. And for my Hearthguard that were planning on coming and going, being anchored around one point, like I said, it was a ripe battlefield for me to go in there. So
feeling a lot better about
and this was
Sassanid matchup, perhaps?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
This was old feud as well, and you both had to pick your champions in this case. I selected the soldier. I went first in this case. Soldier is time and time again, probably my favorite one to choose because of the built-in We Obey that he has. And armor 6, I think, against shooting and determination.
Determination, yeah.
Right.
He's self-sufficient. He doesn't steal dice like some of them do. You know, the brute's nice, but you gotta.
And the brute in that case, I did not want at all. My second choice would have been perhaps the counselor, I think it is, that also has a We Obey. Because since my army is built around lots of fatigue-free activations, having an additional We Obey in there meant that my damage potential was going to go up at least 5 or so dice every time. And so having him situated by my bowman, being able to We Obey, split back, I just had a great volume of fire.
All right.
And I got to say, too, Don didn't get the best dice rolls either on some of those defense dice rolls, too. Sheer volume of fire.
Shooting, it comes down to the 4 pluses. You can shoot 25 times and kill 3 things.
Yep.
You know, and
I think on a good term, what I had figured out for myself is that on a pretty average Saga dice roll, my army should be able to put out about 34 fatigue-free shots, which in Saga is
that's a lot of shots.
Outstanding. So we were able to write. The fun of the game really ended on at turn 4. You're supposed to roll a die to see if you continue. First player rolls, and on a 1, it ends.
I was here for this,
and I threw it down. I chose, the love of my life was sitting next to me, and I said, please, pick a die. And she selected it. I tossed it.
My lady, my liege.
And inadvertently, I still won the game at the toss of that dice roll, but I was really hoping to take advantage of Don had an exhausted warlord in the back of the field. His brute that he chose had no protection around it and a fatigue on it, ripe for the taking. But it didn't happen. That was okay. I was able to get enough kill points all combined to move on and stay on top.
That's right. So 1-2 games, but you know people don't talk about that in Saga. It's actually a big deal on those random scenarios as far as massacre points when ties and things come having additional opportunities to score.
Right.
You know, you're kind of at a disadvantage. You
know, and I was so worried.
The game was won. Basically, but
I had a good 10 to 12 points that would have been able to show up. And 10 to 12 points, if I had ended it out, everyone had won 3 games, that 10 to 12 points is the difference between winning and losing in that case.
That's the tiebreaker.
And I didn't get it, but I ended, I think, with 20 or 21 kill points there and moved on. And it was feeling good. So
round 3. So this one was a modified Clash of Warlords, where there was a little margin, I think, for the draw, maybe bigger than normal, but you had to get your warlord out at least out of your deployment zone.
Yeah, outside if your warlord was within 12 of the table edge, they were dead at the end of it.
Yeah, so you at least had to get them out, but for the most part, it was a Clash of Warlords. So play how your army plays. You might have to play to the opponent or not.
Definitely.
But I think Carolingians are one where you got to play the Carolingian game for the most part, but you were matched up against Byzantines.
And so I was...
depending on the build, they can match you shot for shot, and you're only taking down levy. So,
there's two kind of inherent weaknesses.
Even. You're a warrior shooting army going up against a levy shooting army, potentially.
And that's the worry. So really defensible terrain using warbands and levy warbands. So Irish tomorrow I'm very worried about in this case. But in general, levy builds, Anglo-Saxons probably a little worried about tomorrow also, just because you don't have the volume of fire. 34 shots is great, but not when you're just shooting against levy the whole time. You're not often going to win the game. You have to have some big charges.
Levy warriors versus warrior archers.
Right, going into
not a
Byzantines.
fight you want to fight,
I know it.
So
I was worried about Byzantines because of the sheer volume of levy that were in there. There was 4 units of 9 levy, 2 combat, 2 crossbow, and then 3 points of Hearthguard sitting in the back.
So that was interesting. Just the half was levies. You might expect 4 points of levies, but he had them in 4 units of 9, which that looked really cool.
Nice.
That looked really cool, actually.
I liked how they presented.
That's something that...
And I was intimidated by him. His combat levy kind of stayed in the back, and I was glad because I was really worried that he was going to end up screening with those somehow, and that I was going to have to chew through these Armor 4 levy, which I can do, but boy, you're not getting what you want in that. It's not good economics of dice, and so I was a little worried there. His Hearthguard Carolingians can eat horses all day long. They can pull horses off the table of any variety without much of an issue, but they're also scared of horses because the highest armor pretty much in my army without my warlord was armor 4. So if he decides that he wants to double activate and come booking, I was pretty worried about that. So when I saw an opportunity that his Hearthguard in the early turns were kind of hanging out to the side, he had an 8-man of Hearthguard way off to my right flank, being screened by his levies a little bit. And I just saw enough to be able to get my shots in that corner. I said I must. And I rolled normal, he rolled bad in that case. So I got a good 4 dead out of that 8-man Hearthguard, pulled back, and I said that's going to set the tempo for the rest of this. And so I was less worried then about a 4-man Hearthguard chasing after my 8-man Hearthguard block a little bit. So, but it was definitely there, and I was still worried about it. And so until those guys were gone,
defensive abilities.
Oh man,
they can send them in, and maybe they're not at throwing as many attack dice, but you're not killing any with.
And they're so tough. The abilities often pertain to the infantry rather than the cavalry, or at least one of the key defensive abilities on the Byzantine board. And so I was glad for that. For any opportunity I could focus in on cavalry, I was gonna. But he made sure that his crossbows were front and center, shooting at me the entire time. So I was kind of worried to have to keep my really expensive main unit, my Hearthguard, out of range the whole time, because him deciding to suck up a little extra fatigue and move them forward and overextend them, even if he only killed 3 or so of that Hearthguard, that's my bread and butter unit, and I was a little worried that that was going to happen, but dice started working well. Actually, dice went back and forth, honestly. I had some pretty poop rolls in there as well, and it goes both ways, but the player was Jim Randall out of Ohio, and I had a blast playing with him. He was an enthusiastic, good player, and like I said, he was smiling in a way that you say, are you naive? Or are you giving me a sort of cloud in front of me a little bit? And I could tell as soon as he deployed, though, that despite what he had said prior to this, he was a skilled player.
So, he had won 2 games.
Right.
Going in, and,
and just the placement of his units, you don't see guys who are newer to the game set up in a way where the entire flank is denied. He had applied himself completely to my right flank, trying to take some of my shooters out of the fight. He blocked the shooters with terrain placement a little bit. So I said, and regardless about how much you're laughing, I'm a little worried that I'm going to let my guard down here, going to come flying out of here, and it'll be all she wrote. But everything worked nice. Everything was keeping together. The board was working the way that I wanted to see it, and it really translated.
So that's often the key to winning events is not good luck, but just the average rolls.
Average
like
rolls,
what you
God
expect would happen. And so it's kind of like I should get about this, I should get that, which is good luck in and of itself, really,
But sometimes you are counting your chickens before they hatch, because you say, I know I can get this round. And then you roll, 4 misses hitting on 5s or something like that, or hitting on 3s. And which kind of happens sometimes. But
Saga, you're not rolling as many dice as other games, so a lot is riding on a few rolls.
Definitely.
So as long as everything goes your way, there's no hiccups,
And honestly, my selection in Warband today was part of that as well. I have a reputation, despite still being a good player, for some really ridiculous ups and downs on my dice before. So I want a unit, an army that's going to be forgiving, that's separated into tons of small batches of shooting, so that way if I failed it, I get a couple times rather than dumping everything into one big combo.
Weight of numbers, averages, and plowing through some bad luck to get to average again. So that was awesome. So you won that one. So the way it worked out, we had 16 players. So there was 8 winners first game, 4 winners second game. So there was 2 top tables going into the last. So your buddy Charles was playing the Huns.
My bud Charles, I guess you were talking to him earlier. Repping Kansas City in this case. Kansas City undefeated in Age of Melee right now, shouting it out to the world. All right,
so,
catch me next year, Andy.
He won his game against the Moors. So it's basically going to be a top 2, Kansas City. So got to feel good. But the way the points worked out, I think it was tied at the end.
I
but
had
it
a
did
big spread difference in
come
my
down
massacre
to
points.
massacre. Yeah,
I think
so
Charles had
92 to 45.
right. So yeah, I had 92
So,
massacre points, so I was grinding.
You had a
through
lot
this.
of kills at the last game. Charles, it was more of a grind, steady grind on his last game. I was flip-flopping back and forth
Watching
between
some of
your
Charles'
tables.
games, they were very positional with a bunch of horse armies going after each other. There's a lot of waiting to that moment, and then everything collapses pretty much. And they were being very cautious, very patient.
Yeah, so taking the points, coming back, you know, it'll win you games, but it won't rack up the huge, collapse of the entire line style wins that will often see you
at the top
to
table.
Overall victory. So, yeah, that was awesome to see. You took it home. I thank you for coming on.
Hey, absolutely. There it is. Yeah. There we go.
Age of Melee event in the books. First one. I'm guessing we'll probably do it again.
It was a
next
blast. Let's see some ancient armies next time, guys. I didn't. No Gauls, no Iberians were something I was worried about today. Didn't see any Iberians.
So Scott was thinking about Iberians. If the Sassanids didn't come together, you might have been facing Iberians in round one.
I'd rather face Sassanids, I think, than Iberians.
I think so too.
Definitely.
Very strong army. So hopefully we'll have Age of Alexander out by then.
Yep, definitely.
So
cool
$2
stuff.
worth.
Yeah.
Thursday is kind of a wild card event. Could be Age of Magic again. I might be running just purely ancient stuff. So I haven't committed.
That would be really cool.
One way or the other. Kind of a good problem to have. Too many Saga books. How do we get them all at the big Adepticon event? So, thanks for coming on. And
absolutely. Hey,
everybody.
absolutely.
It's really good to see you again. And tomorrow, we're going to play Age of Vikings.
Age of Vikings. Are you playing in that?
I'm playing that. I'm running the Norse scales for Age of Vikings.
Okay.
I don't know.
I'm running Mirror Vengeance all the way through.
At any point. So
now it's disclosed, huh?
I'm a little worried if we meet of the firepower.
Not a lot of shooting defense.
Yeah, a little
yeah.
Best off defense is a good offense. So
the only Saga board that doesn't have a combat pool that is shooting reaction, right?
Yeah, so
I think
by
so.
Design,
Right.
I'm hoping for good matchups throughout with the North scales. That's my key to victory there. So
I'm worried about brown dice armies. I'm worried about Scots and Irish. That's what I'm worried about tomorrow. Anglo-Saxons actually a little bit worried about too. I think one guy's bringing 6 points of combat levy, and I hope that's not what I'm getting into. So.
All three of those are kind of favorites among the age.
I know, right?
You probably get one.
I'll get at least one.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, you get the Irish guy who doesn't. He only wants to take his dogs. Doesn't put any good terrain down. If you're out there, bud, I'll see you tomorrow. If you're bringing 5 points of levy and heroes, maybe we'll see you later on a different
those
table.
dogs.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right.
You know, as I reflect on it, honestly, dogs might be a little rough for my guys just sitting in terrain and stuff like that, bow guys and sitting there. So it's not. It's not that dog fans. It's not. They don't stink or anything. It's just that it's Irish are all about the levy push to me. So.
Okay. Well, awesome. We'll talk to you again. Hopefully sometime.
Hey, maybe tomorrow maybe I'll be interviewing you tomorrow. Saying I'm here. This is Saga Thordsday stepping in guest episode. We got Rodge here, and he crushed it with Norse scales today. So
if I get the right matchups, I'm feeling pretty good about it. So, yeah.
All right.
We'll catch you next time.
All right.
Peace
Take
out.
care, guys.
See ya. Saga. If you'd like to see more Saga content, consider joining the Heathen Army over on Patreon or popping on down to the Saga Thursday Discord server. Links below. Thanks, guys.